I avoid running out of time preparing grant applications right up to the edge of a deadline? And how do I just stop this cycle of chasing grants at the very last minute? I'm happy to talk about this topic because it's truly one of the main reasons people burn out, why they're not successful pursuing grant applications, when you get frustrated, and just in general, it's just a poor use of time. We want to know what we're going after well before a grant deadline comes out. So here's a very common thing that I hear. A certain grant name. It's due in 4 days, but it's perfect for us. Should we go after it? And my answer is no, absolutely not. No, 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 no. And here's why. First of all, you're blind when you are really wanting to go after something. We'll kind of see things however we want to say that kind of validates, yes, this is the perfect fit. A lot of times you're making up your decision based on only the information you can find online, and you haven't actually gone to a funder to confirm, would they actually get behind this? Would they support it? Now you're saying, no, I talked to the funder and they said, please apply. Well, here's the catch. A lot of times funders will say, yes, you should submit your proposal because it makes their programs look better if they're really competitive, right? So I've had that happen before. So it's very hard to make a good decision that's rooted in rationality and not sort of an emotionally driven decision when the deadline is getting really, really close and you're like, we should just do it. I'll just stay up for 3 days straight and write it. Well, just break the cycle and don't do it. But perhaps you're saying, well, it's not that I want to do it, it's that my boss is telling me I have to. Okay, so this happens. I hear this all the time as well. There's a lot of pressure, especially put on by others saying, we have to go after this grant, you need to do it, and you are told to. So how do you push back in those situations? There's kind of a couple tips. And the first one is take your time. Really, it doesn't take that long. Go confirm that the funder you're pursuing or want to go apply for actually does get behind projects like your own. This can be one of the fastest ways to just kill something. Be like, look, I know this on the website looks like they fund saving the polar bears, but they have never funded saving polar bears. So why would we think that the situation has changed and therefore we should submit our project? It's just not logical and we're not going to succeed. So that's one thing. 2, calculate the competitiveness of the program. So I've made this mistake, and there's a reason I'm telling you guys this, because I've done all the dumb things you can do. Perhaps not all of them, and I'm still doing them from time to time. But one of them was, I found this grant program for a nonprofit art organization I was working with, and it looked like the coolest grant program, perfect fit, right? Really quick deadline, pretty simple proposal, not super complicated. So I said, I'll risk it, I'll prepare it, because I was excited and I wanted to work with them. Well, it wasn't successful. I made a stupid mistake of I spelled our email wrong, so we didn't even get the announcement that the proposal was not successful. I had to go dig that up later, and that's just a dumb error. That was totally preventable, but I did it because I was hurrying. I was trying to prepare the proposal at the last minute. And then I also found out after the fact that less than 1% of projects are funded through this foundation. That's stupid. I have a rule of thumb of not applying for anything under 20%, and here I am going after something that's pretty much impossible to get, right? If I had just taken a little extra time to dig up that information, I would have killed the proposal and saved half a day, a full day of work, you name it. And that's on the easy end. I mean, when you're taking those complicated proposals and spending 3 to 4 to 5 weeks preparing something, that's a substantial percentage of your month, of your work week, of your life that you don't get back. So it's really important to figure out how competitive is this proposal so I know we have good odds going into it, right? The next thing you can think about when you're pushing back on, no, I really don't think we should go after this, is the cost of preparing the grant. If it's a $5,000 grant, but it's going to cost you $8,000 in staff time and resources to pursue it and manage it, doesn't make sense. You should be seeking grants that are worth more than the input that you have to get put into it to get that grant, right? So the way you do that is kind of tallying up everyone's time. And a common issue is that people think our time is free. Well, I'm not having to pay someone to write this grant, I'll just do it. Yeah, well, your time is worth something, even if you're a salaried employee. So be sure to value that and don't discredit it, because there is a hard cost to how you spend your time. And we want to be spending it on things that are successful. Not only does it make your projects more successful because they get grant funded, but it just makes you a lot happier when you have more wins. The other thing is trust your intuition. And I know this can be tough when you're a new grant writer and you feel like you're inexperienced, or I don't know, maybe they know better. I guess we should go after it. But in your gut, you're like, I don't think this makes sense. I had this happen in my first summer of preparing grant applications. I'm just learning how. And the engineer I was working with wanted to go after some water or wastewater funding for a project in a really rural community in Washington. And it seemed like, okay, I don't know anything about the wastewater treatment process, so okay, that sounds like a good project. But the more I was really digging into it, and the more I was really looking at what ecology, the Department of Ecology, would fund, the more I realized there's no way they're going to fund this, because this should just be an operational maintenance cost that the city pays for. And they have the lowest rates in the whole state, and if they don't increase those by a few dollars to pay for projects like this, why should the rest of the state have to subsidize for that? And I knew that that was what was going to happen. And so I did push back, and I'm pushing back on a senior engineer, someone with far more experience. And he said to me, well, it looks good if we do that for them, if we can buy some goodwill. And I was like, it does not buy goodwill to not write successful grants. So let's just stop this mayhem and only go after grants that we actually have a good chance of getting. So I know how tough it is, even still today. I've been grant writing for several years, but I'll doubt myself if I'm around others that are older and more seasoned and experienced, and I have to remind myself, no, follow your intuition on this stuff. If something doesn't make sense, don't waste time pursuing it. So those are 4 tips for you to think about when you're being pressed to pursue a grant application, but it doesn't actually make sense to do it, and you're needing some ammo to kind of articulate why it's not a good use of resources. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to just drop those in the comment box below, and we'll get back to you with either future video content or I'll respond to you directly. That's it.